behind schedule, and we are live. All right.
Okay, and
Okay.
now from his basement in Fort Collins, Colorado, it's Stuart Yoshida and the OokTown Podcast. Oh, podcast, Stuart Yoshida, OokTown Podcast. Yay!
All right.
Awesome. Aloha, everyone. Aloha to my patrons and listeners. This is Stuart Yoshida, host of the OokTown Podcast, where we talk about all things ukulele. We are doing a shelter-in-place podcast, so I thought I'd focus on podcasting. Yes, we'll talk about ukulele and music and all that kind of good stuff. But I've brought in some special guests because I'm hoping we can share our insights into how podcasting and all of this technology we can use that in this time of sheltering in place. And so I want to bring on my first guest, who is Ray Ortega, professional podcaster, host of Podcaster Studio and Podcasters Roundtable.
Thanks.
Aloha, Ray.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing okay. We had a lot of technical difficulty, which is why this live stream is late. And I also want to bring on my good friend Abe Deshotel, who is a ukulele performer. You could see him on the first mini ukulele festival that Sarah Mizell and Craig Chi hosted. And he's also the podcaster of Abe's Ukulele Podcast. Welcome back.
Yay!
Hey, Stuart. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, anytime. Love seeing you and love having you back. For those of you who are not familiar with Ray, I think Ray, you first came on my radar maybe when I saw you had visited Leo Laporte's Twit studio
Right.
a while ago.
The old one. The one was, I think, in the middle. The brick. Was it the brick house? I think it was the brick house.
Yeah.
And I went with Mike Russell, a couple from UK, a couple podcasters from the UK, and they came out to the US, and I said, "Oh, well, you have to make the podcasters pilgrimage if you're coming out to California."
Right.
So we went there, and it's in this little remote town just north of San Francisco, and there's like a really good little brewery, and then there's the Twit studio, which you can just walk
That's
into.
it, huh?
Yeah. Well, I guess you have to have an appointment. I don't know, but that's what we did. It was fun.
You know, there's a really interesting ukulele connection in that one of the ukulele companies is located in Petaluma,
Yeah.
which is where the Twit, whatever used to be called the Brick House, but the Twit House is. And I know Doug is furiously looking right now. I think it's Kala, maybe? Is located.
It is indeed Kala, and there is a link to that in the show notes.
Nice.
I know about that brand because I recently went out and bought a micro bass, which is just really just a big bass ukulele, I believe. Nice. It's a gold tone, but I was looking at some Kalas for sure.
Sweet.
Oh, you should look at the Kalas. And we're gonna. There's an amazing ukulele bass player named Milo Fultz. That if you haven't checked him out, you ought to check him out. He is so tasty. But yeah, we'll have to find out more about what you're doing with the bass. I'm going to jump over to Abe. Abe, he contacted me a couple years ago. I brought him on the show, and then I encouraged all people out there who wanted to start an ukulele podcast. And Abe took up the challenge, and he's got a podcast going strong now. I don't know how many episodes you have, but you're up to like what, 60, 70 or something? Where are you at?
Like 42, I think.
42 is indeed the correct number, and there's a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
42, the magic number. So you're doing great, and cheers to you for taking up the challenge and doing that.
Thank you. It's all your fault, Stuart.
That's awesome. I'm glad that it's my fault. So before we get into the main topics, I do want to give a couple shout outs. First shout out is to Tori Knight for sending me his ukulele song, You're My Brother. It's a really great, funky, upbeat song. And Tori, if you're listening, send me a link. I couldn't find your song online, but if you want to send me a link, I'll be glad to put it in our show notes. Also want to give a shout out to Dan Pankey of the My Uke site for mentioning the OokTown podcast on your news page. And we'll give a link to your site in our show notes. And then finally, I want to give a shout out to Sarah Mizell and Craig Chi for hosting the first virtual ukulele mini Uke Fest. And they're going to have another one happening May 2nd. So that's just next weekend in virtual time. So hopefully I'm going to get this podcast out as soon as I can, and we'll have a link in the show notes. It was great. And Abe was on that mini Uke Fest. How was that?
It was awesome. I mean, I can't imagine how much work it was for Craig and Sarah, but yeah, it was what 10 to 4 or 5, something like that. Just constant. I mean, they were basically what you're doing. They're the hub, and everybody was calling in. They had some pre-recorded sections, but man, it was. I couldn't sit through all of it because it's just such a long day. But there's a recording you can go back. It was just amazing how much work was put into it by all the performers. Yeah.
Well, performers and they did like a marathon because they hung in there, and they had to take care of a baby because they're sheltering in place and they can't have babysitters. I was like, oh my gosh,
The baby's
how are
wearing
they
a
going to do
tuxedo,
that?
so you should go and see. It's like a baby tuxedo pajama thing. You in the show notes you had it in there, and so I clicked on it just to see for reference, and then I just found myself stuck watching it. So I scrubbed through the whole thing to see the different performances, and it was so much fun to watch. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And one of my favorite things was the day before Craig walked through all of his like the
yeah.
camera setup and how all the mics were coming in, and that's the part that I was like,
Oh, and it was quality too. Like he had super quality on his end. You could tell he's got DSLRs. He had audio. He's got 2 setups: him at the desk and his wife and the baby were at a different table. It was. I was noticing all of that. It was well done.
I know too. I was like, and I think he's using the OBS software to cut back and forth and do the inset, picture in picture kind of thing. Yeah, really. And the thing about that is that being the host and being the producer of a show is so hard, and they did that all day. I was like, wow. Good on you. Yeah, we'll get into that in the second half of the show. So you guys want to really who are into podcasting or just all this technology, stick around for the second half of the show. And I want to let Ray and everyone loose on all of that. But you know what I forgot to do, and Doug, I don't know how come you didn't jump in, is I forgot to introduce my co-host, Doug Brown.
Oh, thank you. I was looking up tabs to put in the show notes, but thank you for saying hi.
And so you got did you get a new camera? Because I see you've got the fancy backdrop in there.
No, I've had this camera for a little bit, but I've been because I've had so much time at my house. I brought out I've torn down and put back up my setup like 4 times now, and even this is not really what I want it to be. But and thanks to Craig, I ended up ordering a bunch of HDMI to USB, capture cards and things. So
you did.
Yeah, Kai is super happy with her ever-loving husband now. So.
I'm assuming you didn't do that like since lockdown because you can't find any of that stuff. Like
it's
really
pulled out. Yes, everyone wants to go live. So.
Everybody does.
Your phone, it's fine.
I kind of thought that my brother-in-law I was trying to coach him on, you should get this condenser mic, USB condenser mic, and Amazon sold out. He bought the last one at Best Buy or something. He had to run over to the. He lives in Hawaii, but the other side of the island to get the last USB blue mic on the shelf. It's like, what? This is insane.
I've been trying to buy a Nintendo Switch. They're just
yeah. There's the other thing, right? Video games. See, yeah. So this is all the things people are zooming and video gaming, um, and oh, she's see. This is why I have show notes. Um, but I do want to say to my listeners and patrons, hey, thank you for supporting the OokTown podcast. That's how we keep going here, and I'm sending out a special request, especially at this time, to if you're a listener and you want to support the show, go over to patreon.com/ooktown. Just $1 a show, whatever you can afford. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to ooktown.com/donate. This is how I'm keeping the lights on, and especially this time, I'm pinching pennies right now, trying to make everything stretch because uh, this whole pandemic thing is just nuts, and it's affecting me and it's affecting a lot of people. So go over there if you can. We really appreciate your support. Getting back to the agenda here, yeah, we're going to share some ideas on what activities you're doing while you're sheltering in place. As I mentioned, the second half of the show, I want to go over some tips and things on video conferencing and what you should be looking at doing and buying, perhaps. And then in the third half of the show, as they say on Car Talk, bonus round. So please stick around. Then I'm going to really let these guys loose on geeking out on podcasting equipment, because we are all, I think, probably equipment geeks here, and share some final thoughts on how we can get through this pandemic here. So ukulele in the time of the coronavirus, what can we do? Let's start off with, hey, what music are you listening to? Who wants to start? Let's go with Abe.
All right. I've been listening to a lot of Finch, which is like emo, and also Simon and Garfunkel, which I think everybody should know. And this person named Gordy, she's an Australian artist, I believe. She put out this album in like 2017. It's like a really gut-wrenching breakup album. Then there's this band that I've always loved called the Oh Hellos, and I really like them for their instrumentation, and they put a lot of leitmotifs in their music, which is like small repeated phrases. So it's kind of like just these beautiful stories, really well mixed and mastered, and like especially orchestrated. And it's basically folk music, happy, poppy, clappy kind of like the Lumineers, I guess, is something I could compare it to. A little like Simon Garfunkel too, in a way. But yeah, that's what I've been listening to. A lot of emotions.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. This is an emotional time. Hey, well, send me some of those links to that music if you wouldn't mind. Would love to share that with people.
Sure.
Let's go over to Ray. What have you been listening to?
Oh man, what I've been enjoying is all the the normal artists that you would hear, Lumineers, anyone like that, and their home setup. So I'm listening to a lot of the music that's coming out of the the musicians' homes, but I'm also watching. Right, you said we're all sort of gear geeks, and I'm just fascinated by what mic do these people have in their house, what's their camera setup, what's their audio setup, right? And so a lot of that, I mean, it was just like 2 days ago, Post Malone did a Nirvana live stream tribute, like an hour long, and it was amazing. He like wore a muumuu dress that Nirvana had once worn, and Travis Barker was there, and so and there were a couple other people that I didn't recognize because I'm not that cool, but it was really fun to watch him just like scream out some Nirvana songs. He did a great job, and so there's been other things like that, all these mashups where people are recording themselves at home. There was like a Foo Fighters Times Like These thing that the BBC turned into like this 20-person video. So I just find myself keep clicking on stuff, mostly like from Twitter, but I'm always attracted to the music being produced from home.
It's amazing that a lot of people have picked up on that. Doug, what have you been looking for? Been listening to?
Well, the first, Ray, did you see the picture of Lady Gaga with the $40,000 microphone turned backwards?
Yes, and I had two thoughts about that. One, is it potentially not a mistake? I think it probably is, because these people are used to having the audio done for them, right?
Right.
Like someone else takes care of it. That's
Right,
someone
right,
else's
right.
job. But if it was on a omnidirectional pattern, which I think that mic has, I thought I saw switchable patterns. It could be a technique. And also, if you listened to it, because I went straight to the video when I saw these tweets coming out. And I saw some pretty rude tweets too, which is a bit ridiculous. But I went straight there to see what was the result. And did you listen to it? She sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So my guess is omnidirectional, and I would just call it a special miking tech.
I had, I've never even seen a $40,000 mic, so like an SM58 that's soaked in beer is what I'm most familiar with.
That's right.
But a lot of the stagehand forums, man, they jumped on that immediately.
They did.
But
Well, was it a Neumann, or what kind of mic was it?
what now?
Was it a Neumann?
It was
Vintage Neumanns are they go for tons of money.
It was gray.
It was something like that. It was something like I don't even know what it was. It was probably some German built microphone.
Well, and it's one of those things where I think there's a point of diminishing returns on microphones where, like it sounds. It's like you can spend money and get it to sound better and better, but then there's a point where
100% too. Because I mean, are you? If you're using a $20,000 microphone in your house, is much different than using a $20,000 microphone in a studio, right?
preach it. But
Yeah, exactly. Right.
the actually the thing that I'm listening to the most now is Zoom ukulele get-togethers.
Yes.
I am doing.
I know.
I am doing one not every day, but I was doing one Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But
Wow.
now I found out that the Ukulele Wednesday guys from London, they do one every day of the week, and
Wow.
it has been super fantastic, and.
Let me just say that when I did check out that festival, the online festival, and then coming on this show, I was, shouldn't be surprised, but the community seems so big and plugged in. The ukulele community was amazing. Like,
Is that right?
it's like a huge niche. It appears, and even in podcasts, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, well, and it's one of the cool things is that, like, I feel fine going anywhere and playing ukulele because ukulele people are super laid back, but like I've been going to a group in Steamboat Springs, which is here in Colorado, but just probably an hour and a half, 2 hour drive from where I'm at, and then the Portland Ukulele Wednesdays. Their group is just really super and terrific, but it really is pretty cool, the idea of going halfway around the world to strum ukulele with people, and then the idea that you like they're doing their 7 o'clock getting ready to have a couple of beers and wind the day up, and I'm doing that at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So,
Right.
but
Time.
and the coolest thing was on Friday, I did on Friday I did their strum along, and it was so awesome. And I'm trying to. Oh, where is the?
What made it awesome?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out. And now I've lost it. So, but it was hosted by the lady from Opera Lele, who we had on
Parquet. Yes, Marnie Arquette. Like, oh,
No,
I'm so sorry,
it's
but of Opera Lele. But
and
yes, I know.
I just talked to her on Friday, and it makes me super embarrassed that I can't remember what her name is. Um, but she was just opera awesome, and I just had a super time, and was strumming along and everything, and it was great. But yeah, so
I think that
I've been playing more more with people probably since the quarantine started than before.
I think that is true of a lot of things where people are connecting on these different platforms here. I want to go back to an interesting observation that Ray you made is that the you're saying that the ukulele community seems really plugged in. I kind of had that feeling. I wasn't quite sure though, but it's really interesting to get from an outsider's perspective because we're all in the ukulele community here, Doug and Abe. But from your perspective, that was interesting. Why would you say that they were plugged in?
Well, I mean, I was just impressed with, first of all, there was a festival, an online festival, right? And then I didn't know what that meant. So I clicked through and watched, and then it was just like guest after guest after guest. And I was like, there are so many people, who play the instrument, but and then also are connected to the community, right? So this is hosted by, the main host, but then they just brought in all these people who could flip on a camera and have a microphone open and play. So I was surprised that there was just so many people just on this one festival, which just let me know, oh my gosh, this is a big community. And I mean, of the, probably people play all around the world. They seem to be connected. I mean, you just talking, just the ability to do a festival and have that many guests, it stuck out to me. That's what it was. I wasn't expecting that, I guess, is what, when I clicked through.
That's just what Mandy from Opera Lele said the other day. She said the exact same thing. Mandy said that.
Did she really?
No, she didn't. But that was Mandy is what her name is, and I'm super embarrassed. But yes. And that's one of the things that has always drawn me to the ukulele community is the fact that it really is just wherever you go. If somebody's playing a ukulele, like, we are good, we're all cool, and we can strum together, and you just know that person is going to be all right.
I even got the impression that there were, I mean, it seemed like multiple.
I think that's part of the interest.
Teach online.
I'm sorry, Ray. What was that?
It seems like many of the guests also taught online. Like, it was at least two that taught online. So that also stuck out to me. I'm like, oh, there are people, giving lessons to other people online. So, I come from, my niche is very hyper connected and geeky and doing all the stuff online. So you don't always expect it from from other communities. I don't know how well connected everyone else is. And when I think of the ukulele, I don't necessarily think, oh, it's a bunch of people who are super into tech, and in fact, you saying, Doug, you're saying how laid back it is. And that's sort of like an outsider's perspective. You think, oh, it's very, very chill, laid back. And you don't know, like, we're going to talk about gear. Like, is that something that ukulele players are generally into? They're into their instrument, but it's acoustic, right? I don't need to plug it in even. So I was impressed with everyone who was participating. And like I said, it looks like they're also reaching out themselves. So, which means they're extending the community, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and I think it was great that you may not have seen that, but Craig and Sarah actually had dry runs for several days in advance. They would bring on the people just to do mic checks and make sure that everything was set up properly. So it's like, oh yeah, of course, right?
Yeah.
And
they recorded, they rolled in like recorded videos, which actually one of those was my favorite because they had a guy who had a full on like bass guitar and they were playing to the uke, and it was amazing.
Yeah. What was his name? He was a jazz
Andrew or something like that. Andrew.
Abraham. What was his name?
I can
Yeah,
never
he was
remember. I was going to try to
his
remember. He
father
amazing.
was fantastic. I was like,
His dad,
hey, the,
yeah.
the ukulele player was good. I mean, he was
Yeah.
spot on, and then his father was really good. I'm like,
was cool.
oh man,
I
that's
think it
where he
was,
learned
There was
his
another
chops.
acoustic bass player in there too, with his wife, and she had convinced him to get like a mini. Maybe it was a ukulele bass. Maybe I'm not sure. I think it seemed a little bigger, but anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. There was that was the first. Might have been. Was it Cynthia Kinnunen? Do you think? And her husband.
Oh,
Her
yeah,
husband was
right.
It was
bass.
early.
She was right before me,
Yeah,
or like 2 slots before me.
Was it Andrew
Yeah.
Molino? That
Yeah,
was
Andrew
the
Molina. Yeah, that was cool.
yes,
And
yes.
the links to that video will be in the show notes here. But
Nice. Doug is my wingman. He takes care of all that stuff.
That's the co-hosting job. That's
Yeah.
why he paid so well. For
I think
yeah, exactly. One of the
Exactly.
things that we've done with the Denver Ute community, our online Zooms, is I'll have a get together either the day before or 2 days before the actual strum along and say, hey, if this is your first time, or if or actually last time we did the strum along on my birthday, and my twin brother and I sat there and played punk rock songs, and I said, now listen, if you guys want to come and test out your connection, you can come, and you can even play punk rock songs with my brother and I, but just know that this is not going to be your the candle in the wind, this is going to be the ska music strum along. So, and surprisingly, we had 6 or 7 people that were all strumming punk rock songs with us. So that was neat.
I have a question for you guys, for anyone who's playing. You're talking about playing together and strum-alongs, and I have a couple of my buddies and I get together and jam, which we haven't done since lockdown. But are you finding that is doable online?
So the way that people do it is that you have a leader, and then you mute everybody else, and so everybody's playing along with you, and to some degree, I mean, to be able to look down and see, especially on the Ukulele Wednesdays guys, like 50 people all well, in the Denver Ute community one, we had 72 people at one point, which was kind of cool, and people from my buddy Tracy was there, and she's in Michigan, and then my twin brother from California was there, and
you guys can't really play along though. I mean, if you want if I want to come in on bass and you playing a song would be hard. I've messed with some software called Jam Kazam, and there's one called Jamulus, and it's supposed to be for this purpose, and it kind of works. I mean, I'm jamming with a neighbor essentially, so the latency is really low. But I was just curious if you've found a way to virtually play together. Not, I mean, like actually, like if we want to play a song together, it's difficult.
Yeah, the weird thing is that latency problem, that you won't get the same. So the couple of times that we've done it, I always take and unmute everybody for a little bit. And it's like a round where it's like the most anarchy thing ever, because everybody's starting at a different time, and there's no connection to it at all. So it sounds like a bunch of stuff falling down a flight of stairs. But and I started to boot up Jam Kazam or one of those, and my the security software on my computer went insane. So I was like, maybe we'll just put that off and not try that for now. But yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where I think Zoom certainly is not the best way to do it, but it's the best way. like capitalism isn't the greatest economic system, but it's one of the ones that works. That
I mean, you could use a cappella or like pre-recorded. Everybody records themselves to a click, and somebody has to edit it. The guy who gets the short straw, he gets to edit it all together.
Well, I think that that Hamilton thing on John Krasinski's, which was awesome.
All right, I'll have to see it. Watch that one. Put a show in the
There,
put a link
there,
in the
there will
show
be a
notes.
link in
Not
the
a
show
show in
notes
the
to
link
that.
notes.
But
Yeah, I was.
but yeah, there's been a couple of videos that have come out where it's like, oh, look at us all singing along. It's like, yeah, that's not really what you're doing, though, is it? But so as far as I know, I don't think there's a way to jam together online unless like you're across the street from each other.
Well, I think even if you're across the street, there's going to be latency issues. So this is the what they're trying to solve, and there are some software like Ray was mentioning, and you were mentioning that Jam Kazam and those. There's another one where everyone plays along to the link click track, and it synchronizes it. So everyone is always a little bit behind, but they're always all in time, if you know what I mean. And so, if you want to, but the problem with that is that you really can't vary there's someone else or some other source that's keeping time. So just to demystify it a little bit for the listeners is that there's a thing called latency, which causes everything to be delayed. And so synchronizing everyone when you're online is nearly impossible at this time. And what I love about that is knowing that, seeing the ukulele community, which is a very interactive community, they just love to be together and strum together. And the way they figured it out was, oh, okay, well, we'll just improvise here and we'll make only one person be the leader. Everyone strums along. And even though, if you unmuted everyone, it would sound like a cascade of things falling down the stairs, as you mentioned. This way you can play along and feel like you're in the community, but not have that weird, unsynchronized, unconnected cascade.
It's definitely. I'm finding it's really good practice as a teacher because I'm teaching online now. Obviously, I can't play with my students now, but like just trying to give them a click over Zoom and then having them like play it correctly or incorrectly. It's not going to line up with me. It's going all right. One kid actually played piano on his iPad, and he shared his screen, and I could see the notes, and I would hear the notes later. So it was like an extra layer of latency. It was kind of, I'm trying to judge the
wow,
not all the
that would be really,
yeah. And anyway, just trying to work,
Yeah, that's going to be. I don't know what's going to be the answer there unless we have quantum communication where it's instantaneous, but I don't know if we'll ever get around the latency issue. I don't know.
Well, quantum communication, couldn't you have them start the song before you decided what it was, and then
that could be. You're thinking of a time heist is what I think you're thinking of.
I know some people do like drones, and then they'll take turns improvising. You don't have to worry about the timing in terms
right.
Yeah, stuff is so difficult over the internet.
Well, one of the things that I've been doing is playing trying out the U bass, and it's so nice to play along with all of these people when people can't hear me going. It's like, okay, root. Yeah, the worst.
Come on, throw some five. Throw a 5 in there too. Come on, root 5. That's always good.
Make it spicy.
Speaking of bass, how's that going for you, Ray? You just took that up. Is that how? Is that you just picked it up, or you played for a while, put it down, and now you're picking it back up?
No, I think we're coming up right around a year ago. My buddy and I have really no business being around musical instruments. I just don't feel like my brain is wired for it. And I tried to play guitar when I was in high school. I took lessons and nothing ever really stuck. And I'm more mystified. When I watch people play music, it's like NASCAR. I'm waiting for them to screw up. Just crash and burn, because that's how I would do it. So I'm always amazed by it. But my buddy had a bass. He had I think it was like a 89 Mexican P bass Fender, just sitting around that he had picked up real cheap. And he's like, do you want to try this thing? I was like, okay, sure, I'll try it. Right. And so I came home, punched up YouTube, tried to play it, and felt immediately like I was back in high school, and I was just about done. I said, nah, it isn't for me, right? I try carrots every couple years, and I don't like that either. So so I was like, oh, I think this is where it's going to end. And there was a really bad like banner ad on one of the YouTube videos, and I had right clicked open in another tab. And when I was done, I was like, oh, I've got this tab open, and I checked it out, and it was a really bad ad for it's called Musician, which is sort of like a follow the ball play. And so I tried it and was like instantly playing the bass along to songs that I loved, and
Wow.
became super hooked. And so the week after that, all my fingers were blistered up, really big blood blisters. I kept sending photos to my friend every day. I'm like, oh, new blister. And so
Wow.
it just hooked me after that. And so I just have not stopped playing since then. In fact, I'm wearing this brace here. I think I got like a bit of tennis elbow. I've done something to my arm. I do think half of that is video games
Wow.
at the same time. So just about, about a year. That's it. It's all cover songs. We have a dad band type thing, and it's fun.
No kidding. Wow. That's amazing that one thing you found really hooked you and allowed you to play along. So you're well on your way. And by the way, Ray, bass players are the hidden secret sauce that everyone needs and wants, but they don't know it. Everyone wants to be the guitarist up front, Jimmy Page or whoever, but it's the bass players that hold it down and are actually in a lot of demand. So if you have so there you go.
It's fun. I found that thing. It's funny because it's the one thing that I've done creatively in the past 20 years that doesn't sort of end up online. It's really for me. And so it's been a super outlet for me to just do something that's creative and then sort of put it down and go about my day. I didn't record it. I don't have to edit it. I don't have to publish it. I just enjoy it. So it's been like, it's kind of like picking up golf or something. Something I know I'm going to do like for a lifetime now. And it's been super exciting.
Good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
Not like playing PUBG as I saw in your video that I played PUBG for about 6 months, and then it got to the point where I got so motion sick every time I play it that I haven't been able to play it since. But
that's why I don't do the VR goggles. That stuff makes me sick.
Yeah, the VR kind of stuff.
Yeah, not fun.
Okay, so since we're all podcasters, I did want to make sure that you get your recommendations in. What episode of a podcast would you recommend, either yours or someone else's? Doesn't matter. For sheltering in place, and why? So, who wants to start? Let's start with Abe.
All right. Does it have to be mine, or I'll do both?
No, it doesn't have to. Both, yeah.
I did do one about COVID-19 and the ukulele world. That's what it's called. Just talking to festival directors, one performer and a shop owner, just how the situation has been affecting people, kind of bringing this perspective of like, so many people have been put out of work suddenly, including creative people and people not exactly performers, like these festival directors. They have to deal with this on a much larger scale. Personally, I really don't like doing remote interviews, but it's all phone call interviews, which is fine. Anything else in my catalog is mostly just like conversations with good players and good teachers. So if somebody's looking for just insight into playing, I think that's good. One of my favorite non-me podcasts is Heavyweight. It's like this guy, I don't know, he's a comedian or something, but he gets people's stories about some regret they had in their life, and he helps them solve it. He's not a psychiatrist or anything like that, but it's hilarious and also really comforting, and also like when the end of the story happens, it just feels so good because someone has solved some big regret of their life. Like this girl is like, she had a baby and she never told the dad, and then eventually, that story was resolved, and it's like, this is deep, man. But it's also really hilarious the way he
Oh
tells.
man!
So I would
Wow.
recommend it. It's called Heavyweight.
So over on Gimlet, and it's Jonathan Goldstein.
Yep, it's hilarious, but it's also really meaningful. It's not just it's not just comedy. And there's tons of others. I have a big backlog of episodes I haven't listened to, but
Wow.
don't we all? I'm getting through it slowly. I have more time.
Hey, it's all good, right? I mean, when we're locked down here, we need as much of this as possible, which I guess is a gold mine, because there are probably millions of podcasts out there right now.
A lot.
Let's go over to
1
Ray.
million, actually. 1 million. Apple just passed.
Really?
1 million. Not that most of those are not active, but there are a million choices in the catalog. Whether they have 2 episodes or not, those 2 episodes could be amazing. So we crossed, as podcasts
Yeah.
and industry, we've crossed the million.
Wow.
Mhm. Cool.
Wow. So Ray, what would be your recommendations?
So I do Podcasters Roundtable, which is myself, and if you're into podcasting about podcasts, Dave Jackson and Daniel J. Lewis, we co-host a show called Podcasters Roundtable, and we bring on all of you. If you are a podcaster, you come onto that show because most podcasters don't have an outlet to talk about their setups yet. They all of you have like this amazing experience of learning how to do this thing, right? And then not only learning how to do it, but then doing it. So that's where we share that experience. And so we did one recently, I think it was round 141. It was called Locked in a Room with a Microphone. And we just sort of talk about COVID's effect on podcasting, if there has been really an effect, and how it's changed our own workflows, if at all. And then, inspired by Stuart's urging of Abe to start a podcast, I would check out the Podcaster Studio 101. So there's a little double entendre there. 101 is how to start a podcast episode. So if you want to do the same thing, if you're in lockdown, you want to start your own show, check that out. It's literally like anything. It's all the things I would tell you if you paid me like 2 hours to sit here and talk to you. It's just all in there. So go start a podcast. And, the beauty of podcasting is you can try it. Like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't stick. Like I tried guitar when I was a teenager, it didn't stick. So what? All you're exchanging is a little of your time, and you're going to learn something and have fun. So give it a shot, and you might find out, it might be Abe and 41, 2 episodes later down the road, you have a well-to-do podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the amazing part about the technology behind podcasting, and it's weird because the technology has been around for almost 20 years. Who is it? There's one of the pod fathers is Adam Curry and Leo Laporte. He was on the ground floor too, but there's also some programmers that made it so that it's encapsulated. Anyone can find it and get it and download it, and so you don't, it just opened the floodgates, right? Once people started realizing that was amazing. So definitely check out the Podcasters Studio and Roundtable, because I know I've sent many of people there when they're starting off podcasting, and great resources there.
And there are links in the show notes.
And of course, links in the show notes
to both the general site and to Podcast 101.
Nice, thanks.
Yes, that's a really good one for sure. Let's see. So my own recommendation. We'll get to Doug first. Go ahead, Doug. Do you have any in particular?
Well, most importantly would be the OokTown Podcast episode 77, and that is the one that Opera Lele we're on, because that's besides the 2 that you suggested, that's my favorite episode. It's awesome. And then there's also a podcast where the 2 of the actresses from The Office are going back and watching all the episodes and breaking them all down, and that's fun. I like that. And then finally, there's
meta.
What now?
That's pretty meta, where they're the people from The Office are watching.
Yeah, it's great. And then finally, there is a guy called Potterless, a podcast called Potterless, where it's a guy who didn't watch didn't read or watch the Harry Potter movies when he was a kid, and now he's going back as a 28-year-old and experiencing it for the first time. And as a big Harry Potter guy, I thought those were really very, very, very cool. And he's a huge fan now. So, yeah. But that's what I'm listening to.
Sorry. Awesome. Well, I thought you were going to recommend episode 33 of the OokTown podcast, A Moody Songwriting Bear with Danielle Ate the Sandwich and Molly Lewis, which was
that one
of the
was terrific.
Yeah,
Episode
that was pretty off the rails.
about episode 88.
What's that?
Oh, yes, episode 88 with
Oh,
Abe. That, you know.
Self-referential. And then the other podcasts I would recommend would be This Week in Tech. Those are fun. And we already mentioned the Podcaster Studio and Podcasters Roundtable. All awesome. A million. Okay, that is awesome. If you cannot find a topic that you're interested, you're not trying hard enough. Looking at all this, and you can just search, right? Just go.
Yeah.
You could either search on iTunes or, gosh, Google, wherever you want to search. They are everywhere. Wow. Okay.
Hopefully the podcaster has done
okay,
a
so
decent
let's
job
talk-
of optimizing it for search. So
Yeah.
that'll pop up, right? So yeah, if you're searching in Apple,
Yeah.
search your keywords like podcasting, ukulele, whatever it is. If you're in Google, add podcast to the end of whatever you're interested in, and then you're more likely to find a podcast about it.
Wow, there you go. So people out there, if you're looking for something to listen to, I think it's really nice too. Is listening is nice in that it is great to have a visual too. I love videos, but I don't know. There's something about listening to it, and you can just go and do something. What's comforting to me is knowing that Aaron Kime listens to the OokTown podcast while he's making his ukuleles. So some of the OokTown podcast has been imbued into those ukuleles. But it's kind of fun that you can, do these, listen to a podcast and do whatever you need to do. Go for a walk, make dinner, whatever you want to do. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. Okay, so next topic, coping. What are some of the things you've tried coping to help cope with this? Being locked down, the pandemic. If it's ukulele related, all the better, but not necessarily. Let's go back around the horn, and we'll start with Ray. What are some of the things you've been trying?
I have actually started recording videos again, right? So I do in addition to a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, and which I enjoy doing, but recording videos and then editing, like putting them together. A podcast is easier than a video, I would say, but I've been sort of stuck in my space, and I find that I'm actually producing more videos, which is something I really wanted to get back to doing. So that has been, it's been a joy to hit publish on the video side, not just the podcast side. So I've definitely been upping that production lately.
I think that's something that, if I think the nice thing about being in the lockdown mode is that you have more time to focus on these things where you don't have to think, oh, I should be going out. I should be doing that errand. It's like, no, I can't necessarily do that errand anymore. I can't just go to the hardware store anymore or to Sam's Club. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, I have an excuse. I'll sit here. Cool. Abe, what have you been trying?
Coping. Well, like I mentioned, just listening to music and podcasts a little more. Most of my week, I find, is I'm just being like a Zoom tech support for my kids because they're in online classes. And then I'm trying to, catch up, keep up with teaching my own classes. I don't do them with Zoom. I just make video lessons. And then I do have my own private students that we're doing lessons over Zoom, but one thing I really like, there's a few like Audubon Society hiking trails near us, and they're still open. So we just, when we have to get out, all the parks are closed. The cops will kick us out if we go. I
Oh, is
can't
that right?
spend
Wow.
time with 4 kids all day. It's impossible. Our backyard's too small. We got this like hobby grade RC car.
Mm,
It's been fun, but the backyard it doesn't really fit. We go on bike.
yeah.
It's but mostly I think one of the things that has helped me personally is just walking through the forest with my kids, just trampling through all these streams and finding all these rocks and bugs and whatever. Yeah, basically, I've been
Yeah.
trying to produce more, but I find that I'm more drained as a parent these days. So
Mhm.
in some sense, I'm more productive because I've been reading more and just being a little more creative in my head. But yeah, in terms of like production, it's been a lot slower. Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Wow. Yeah, I
Homeschooling.
think
Right.
particular.
Go ahead.
You doing an amen there, Ray?
I was
with
saying
the-
homeschooling is has been quite a grind. Becoming a teacher has been
Mhm.
rough. So yeah, I
Mm.
don't want to make it sound like I'm all of a sudden massively productive. I've just pushed out a little bit more than my normal non-productive self. But yeah, my day is consumed also by trying to make sure that my daughter is progressing, I guess, or at least just doing something other than nothing.
Yeah.
Than YouTube watching people
Than
stream
iPad or
PUBG on
Right.
YouTube. Yeah, I have turned into the. Luckily, my kids are in high school, so I couldn't be asked to help with a lot of the stuff that they're doing anyway, because I don't know how to do any of that. But I have gotten to the point where I'm okay. What I want you to do is send me an email and show me all the things that you're doing today, and kind of management level. But so my wife is only has 2 chemo things left. She has breast cancer and is currently going through treatment. What a great timing for that! But so she's in isolation in our house, and so that has been like a whole nother level of badness. But the nice thing, we had a date day yesterday where we took the Cooper Mini and we put the top down and we went for a drive in the mountains, and we got way away from people and we went on a hike, and like Abe was saying, getting out and looking at nature with the it was glorious. But yeah, making sure you take the time to interact with it, because it's so easy to just go, that was really funny what that guy said on Community 10 years ago. Like, and getting your head out of the digital realm and back into family stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Well, what you guys have been bringing to mind too is that many people are learning the tough job that teachers have, because when you have to do it at home, keeping your kids focused, right?
Hey, those
Maybe
teachers.
this will be good for teachers because, right? Yeah, maybe they'll get the credit they deserve. I know my mom was a teacher, and I think it's a really tough job, and so yeah, more power to them. I also think, getting out. I did, Doug, you're gonna have to look this one up. I did see an article in the New York Times on the different effects that being outdoors have on the spread of the virus. And as long as you're not all crowding together in a closed space, the nice thing about being outdoors is that there's generally wind and a slipstream around you, so you're not as likely to get be infected. Although everyone should take care for sure. You don't want that. Okay, so let's get into some help for people because as you guys have been mentioning, we're all becoming like Zoom technicians. Um, so people who are just starting off on this, I think I want to get into what would you recommend in terms of, okay, you're not going to become a podcaster next necessarily, although you might, and this might be a precursor to it. So with that in mind, how would you prioritize things like um, audio, lighting, and camera? Which do you think is the most important? And we'll put in the context of both setting up a interaction where you're on Zoom versus a podcast. But how would you guys prioritize that? Um, and since we have a professional podcaster, we're going to start off with Mr. Ray. What would you say? And then if someone had a budget, how would you kind of split up that budget percentage wise?
Yeah, so I mean, I would go audio, lights, and then camera, which might be surprising because I have a YouTube channel that deals primarily with cameras. But um, if you are watching this stream, or if you watch it later on, if you're just listening, but you can go over to YouTube and check the show notes and check out this stream. One thing I think you'll notice is each one of us has a nice microphone in front of us. And then we have varying levels of lighting and camera. But what's most important to you listening to this is the audio. In fact, we had a lot of technical difficulties getting in here, which is typical of a live stream, happens to me almost every
Yes.
time. And we just defaulted, we went and got Stuart a USB microphone, and he sounds fantastic, right? So the key is that you want it to sound good. That is the primary way people are consuming everything, even if it's video. We're just talking head here. Right? It doesn't even matter if you saw us per se. We could have a picture. It is nice. And then you need lights to see that. So audio number one, and then some lighting, because lighting makes any camera exponentially better. So lighting is fantastic. And a camera, for this, I'm using a webcam, and the key to it is lighting. So knowing a few things about taking control of a web camera, you can work with much less with a camera if you have nice lights, and then audio again being the primary thing. We can split up the budget if you want to do that after, unless you want to do it right now.
Sure. Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go to Doug. Doug, where do you see this?
Ditto.
Ditto. All right. That was easy. Abe.
I mean, it's more or less ditto, but I guess I'll expand on that a little. Especially if we're talking about making a podcast, I think the audio is the most important thing. And these days, it's very easy to get a good microphone. You can get a USB mic. People will ask me, and one of the first things I'll say is get a dynamic microphone, because your house is probably not quiet. Mine is not, and it'll make it just sound better. Like this mic, it was $100. You can get a mic for $100. I don't know what the exact budget we're talking about is, but I would say the majority of your budget should be audio first, and then for me, lights and camera are kind of the same. I do agree that good lighting can make a bad camera look better, but with timing, you can get a lot of good natural lighting. A lot of people have lamps that will work just fine. And then, if you have a good phone, most phones can do a great, video if you need that. A lot of computers have good enough webcams, but yeah, if I had to give percentages, it'd be something like 50% of your budget to audio, and then 25 lighting and camera. Variable based on what you have. Like if you have the newest iPhone, put more money into lighting. Look at what you have. Like I have clamp lights right now. My setup is not ideal for me. That light back there, it's supposed to be like what they call a key light, but it's on my wife's desk. It's like I'm just trying to make this work with what I have, but with all this off, it looks a lot worse, even if I have a good camera. So yeah, most important thing, audio, and then see what you can do with camera and lighting, because the lighting needs to be really good. It needs to be, it needs to look normal, not like blinding. But and then
Right.
I think cameras are pretty easy to get these days that look good enough.
I think so too. Yeah. Then, and I would reinforce everything that everyone says. Yeah, that would be my advice: is audio first, then lights, then camera. And I have a relatively cheap Logitech HD Pro camera here, and it looks so much better because I have lights. And so I actually upgraded the lights a while ago, and so only now am I thinking, and it's not going to be it'll be a while before I invest in a camera. I'm very jealous of Ray here with your Sony A. You're using your A6500. Is that what you're using?
That's it. I'm not. And it's sort of to prove a point for this stream. When I took a look at the show notes, I was like, well, to prove a point that you don't need a $1,000 camera, I'm using a C920 Logitech webcam, and people always ask, like, why does it look so good? And it is two key factors. It is that lighting, which I have a giant, I put a little money into my lighting, so I get a big softbox there.
Cool.
From Aperture. I mean, it's not prohibitively expensive. It's an investment. Like, it really is an investment, because I'm planning on that light to last the duration, like, of all my production. And then taking control over that webcam. So on the Mac, there's a setting or an app called Webcam Settings.
Yes.
And it lets me adjust the exposure, the color temperature, things that webcams can't always do well on their own, or they will switch on you in the middle of a stream, especially if you're trying to use like natural light, which can work really well. But the sun, clouds don't always play together. And so if you can take manual control of the camera, it's then another step of making everything so much better. And then if you even get this camera, the Logitech stuff on PC, on Windows OS, comes with software to adjust it. So, just having a few, and then some knowledge over, how to adjust manual exposure, and you're going to look fantastic. And then
for people that aren't watching the video stream, Ray looks awesome.
Thanks. But so you guys, you got green, you got all the good stuff going.
Ray looks fantastic. Yeah, that's what's the amazing thing, is that you can make relatively inexpensive things look just fine. I'm using a similar type of camera too, and I noticed that in Zoom, of course the people who are backlit, it's just like there's a ghost there, and just like want to go out and say, hello everybody. You need a light on your face, please.
Yeah.
So if there's one
your laptop, and it's like, oh, there you go.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, I've had to coach people with that too. They're sitting, with their laptop, perfectly fine setup, built-in microphone. It's it's okay. Or headphones. There's a window. It's the middle of the day, and it's just like, just turn or go to the other side of the table, and it's like, I can see you.
Yeah, and I would say you also
just turn towards the window. Yeah,
you don't need to buy anything. If you're just doing Zoom with your friends or for school or something, you don't need to buy any microphones. I mean, because a dynamic mic, like Abe's saying, it is great for some rejection. It will tamper down some of the stuff that's in your background, especially if you're in a house where people aren't you don't have a record light on and people know not to come in. It can be noisy, and we're all stuck inside together. So that can certainly help with that. But with microphones, like 50-70% of making them sound better is getting closer to them. It's all proximity. So get closer to your device. Don't have the laptop across, right?
Well, and those little earbud things that every phone comes with, the little mic that you get on the exactly. In terms of, it's not as good as Lady Gaga's mic, but anytime that you get something that's kind of designed more for and is closer to you, that's going to be a better signal that you get.
Yeah, and so here's another thing: is as Doug said, those earbuds with the built-in mic, cool, work fine. Just one thing that drives me nuts is make sure that it's not on a zipper or something that's going to hit it, and it just
long hair, earrings, necklaces.
Yeah, it's not on a zipper; it's on the cable that's coming from the earpiece.
No, but then
but it's not on a zipper. I mean, it'd be nice because you could zip it right up and get that mic placement right. But so I don't know what you're talking about, Stuart. But Doug Brown is so funny.
I'm going to go to Ray. Go ahead, Ray. You were saying?
No, I think that was it. You're making a good point about you do have to be cognizant of what that microphone's doing because it will swing around. I'm wearing one now only for the headphone, but long hair, earrings, necklaces, all these things that it can, people can be, people talk with their hands as I actually just hit a microphone cable, which you might hear, talk with their hands, they move around, right? People are expressive. So if you are having, a lot of times with guests, people always ask, what do you do for guest audio? Yeah, my audio is great, but how do I get guests and get their audio good? And a lot of times, use an earbud mic. It gets it close. Just be aware. And as someone who's conducting an interview or remote, you need to develop the ear for that, right? You are literally spinning plates. So you're asking questions, you're paying attention, you're watching maybe the chat, you're doing all these things. That's also why you should not start a live show immediately from like the word go. But you also develop an ear. You're hearing something. When you hear an issue, stop the interview. Stop it and fix it because it's not something you're going to fix later. You're not going to want to fix it, the whole fix it and post thing. Fix it now. And people are scared to stop the interview. Go ahead and stop it. You're probably going to be something you're going to edit anyways. So take care of it when you hear it. And there's a lot of things you'll learn to hear. And it'll sort of wreck your world because you'll go to places in public and you'll say, do you hear that? No one else hears it. But you'll hear the problems in every movie, every show, every audio.
Yeah, I know. So the Zoom things, I think what I would recommend is that even though it seems nitpicky, it really does, I think, subliminally contribute to the quality of the of the gathering. If they can just say, hey, here's some tips. Hey, I hear extraneous noise. Best practices: mute everybody until they speak, and all this kind of things. Those are the things that I think we should really help out with all of the people joining as we get more and more.
Especially for Zoom, there are a bunch of videos out there about it, but there are some original sound settings that you can adjust in Zoom that will give you a better sound. It would behoove you to go and take a look at that. If you're presenting, if you're the one that's playing the ukulele. Because there's a couple of different kind of sound compression things that Zoom does to try and get down background noise. And like you don't necessarily want that because you want all of that bad noise. What they think is bad noise is just you playing ukulele, which is what my kids say about my ukulele playing. But it would behoove everybody that's hosting or playing in a Zoom meeting to take a second and won't take very long, but is certainly worthwhile.
Yeah, and if you have a decent, I think a tip I would give is that if you have a decent mic, you could probably uncheck the audio processing in Zoom or whatever software you're using, because it'll definitely try and do auto gain, compression, maybe even noise gate, so that it improves the audio. But if you have a really good mic, not a really good mic, but like just this USB condenser mic, you probably don't need that on there. But try it out, see what works. That's what you really should do: is you go in there, go in the audio settings, click it off, turn it back on, see if that affects it and how it affects it. All right. Well, we're moving along here. So we already talked about this next topic about the virtual ukulele festivals. I think that is probably going to keep going. I think if anyone is thinking about a virtual festival, I think the ones, not that, of course I'm a little prejudiced, but the mini ukulele festival that Craig Chia and Sarah Mizell put together, I think is a great example of how you could do that. And we'll definitely have that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ray, what have you seen in terms of these virtual online get-togethers and things that you caught your eye and you would recommend? Because we're always looking for best practices.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered most of it, right? I mean, it really is some basic best practices over audio and stuff. And it's funny how
No, just I, I'm sorry. I was going to clarify. Sorry, I want just in terms of like these festivals that you saw that you thought were doing a good job.
Oh yeah, I mean, I only watched the one festival for the ukulele, and I haven't seen a lot of other. You would think my niche was doing a lot of moving a lot of the conference stuff online. I haven't seen a whole bunch of that, so I haven't attended many of those. Um, we're doing stuff at home. We're doing a trivia night on Zoom, and it's all the best practice stuff. But yeah, I mean, with the ukulele festival that they had, I thought, obviously the host did a fantastic job with quality, and most of it was on them. I mean, there was varying qualities of what people came in with. Um, but fortunately, like when you're playing something like the uke, if you're close enough to the microphone, it's it's loud enough, right? It's that high frequency. It comes through well. Unlike probably my bass would not come through as well unless it was plugged in. You'd have to have a whole setup. The beauty for that festival, I think, is because it is an acoustic instrument. People were able to play in front of almost any microphone they had, and it worked pretty well. And I think, again, you're talking about the settings. These are definitely designed for what we're doing, which is dialogue and speech, and not music. Google Hangouts used to have an extra feature that was built for musicians, but I'd use it for audio, and it was essentially turning off that processing. We're using StreamYard here, and I actually find that if you switch off the processing, it does not do very well. The audio is super low. So I haven't really figured out what's going on with that. So if you're using StreamYard, it's something to consider. And I think your advice of hit record and test it, you have to test it before you go live. That's the basic.
Cool. Abe, what have you seen?
I mean, it's just the one that I know of. A lot of work. I mean, it's interesting that in a lot of my brainstorming for like, how could I like make enough money to pay for my podcast? Beyond merch, another thing that comes up a lot is the idea of doing live podcasting events. So I have been thinking a lot about how you would do that. And I guess you could say, in a sense, Craig and Sarah beat me to it, but they have all the know-how. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Ray mentioned it earlier, all the live musicians putting these things together. It's really cool seeing all this pop up suddenly. People were live streaming before, but not, I don't think, to this extent. So it's kind of like when you're at home, you have so much more entertainment than you ever did before. There was another live festival. I think there was two of them. Someone on Instagram, Ook Like the Pros, Terry Carter. I think he did two. Not really sure, but he has another one planned. So this is something he's been doing where he just he sets a schedule, and then everybody's going to be live streaming on their Instagram page. So it's definitely a lot easier for him to manage. Whereas Craig and Sarah got everybody's graphics, all their links. They set up a page. People like me, we called in through Skype, and then they patched in the video. Other people send in pre-recorded videos because it was easier. Like some people from Hawaii to San Diego, the latency is going to be, that's going to be a bigger problem. But yeah, it's just I kind of forgot what the question was.
Avi, you gave me a thought though, because you're talking about, all right, just Stuart mentioned, people are losing jobs, people are out of work, creators, and you're talking about making money, support the podcast, and we're talking about live streaming. And I'm thinking, if you can utilize, it could be a little trickier to go to YouTube live, because you can go direct if it's just yourself. But if you want to bring in other people, which I'm sure that's how they did it with I think they probably used YouTube for that festival. It's a little trickier because you said you called in via Skype. Now you can do that there's Ecamm Live, which is great third-party software that makes it easy. There's OBS, which is free. So there's a couple, there's a little of a learning curve there if you want to bring in remotes. But why thinking about money and how to get that done easily, you could do like a Live Aid sort of thing. I don't know if I'm dating myself. Everyone knows what Live Aid is, right? Even though you weren't alive. Someone's seen Bohemian Rhapsody. They've seen the movie now. So anyways, there's probably something way more recent. Now, we're seeing this with celebrities are doing these. The Post Malone thing I mentioned, the Nirvana thing, that was to benefit the WHO. So, but it's hard. It can be hard to take money, right? And if you're doing a live and you say, "Hey, go to our Patreon, sign up," that is a lot of friction. But if you go YouTube Live, my long story short, my whole point was that they have super chat, and I have this enabled when I go live, and people they'll just easily $5, $10.
Mhm.
You could do a festival, because I also think charging like tickets, everything's live, everything's free, right? People aren't used to, they're just tuning in. It's hard enough to get people to show up to your live event, let alone to make them pay for it to see it. But super chat and YouTube would be a super frictionless way to make money on sort of a donation model, like again, like a Live Aid thing. Hey, we're doing this live for this whatever, a charity, or for supporting me as a musician, a creative, and maybe even give away a percentage to charity would also then spur, 10% of what we make today on the stream is going to go to charity of your choice. Anyways, it just sparked an idea. I think if you can leverage YouTube, super chat makes it really, super easy to have the audience just pitch in anything that they want.
Wow,
right there.
I'm actually going to suggest that to them, because they were streaming live on YouTube. They were using PayPal me, right? Abe?
Everybody had their own link in terms of like frictionlessness.
Right.
I have a page called Buy Me a Coffee, and it makes it so that you don't actually have to sign up to pay. It's just an instant. I don't know if PayPal is like this, but I think that frictionless idea has a lot of weight, because I've gotten a lot more donations through that than Patreon or anything else. Just having it like one link, and then one more click, and it's like, I paid this $3, whatever. So even the YouTube thing, I'm sure there's requirements for that, but if it's just one click, I think that has a lot more power.
Yeah, as I'm thinking about,
check those out. Okay,
the super chat might require X amount of subscribers. I don't recall, so you want to look into that if you're listening to this and thinking about it. But I mean, heck, you could even host it on someone's channel who has a little bit more or something.
I think they at their peak, there was 3,000 people watching the
huge,
the ukulele festival, which was mind blowing for me.
Yeah. I mean, you only need a small percentage to give a little bit.
Right, great ideas. No, yeah, I agree. Wow, so we've talked a lot, so which is great. So I want to jump into the part of the show where we geek out. So just a warning to all the people there. I think there's going to be good stuff here for everybody.
I think we've done that.
Let's geek out a little.
A lot, yeah,
or a lot, whatever. So just fair warning. And then the third half of the show is, as they say on Car Talk, we're going to talk about some more esoteric things on what we can do to get us through here. But I want to start off with, let's say, Abe, what mic are you using, since microphones are probably one of the key things?
Pod mic.
Rode Pod. Oh, are you using your Rodecaster, by the way?
Yes, I'm using.
Okay, yeah.
It's right here. I really love it. I think it might be a little excessive for what I need. I basically pre-ordered it. Oh, no,
there's Ray.
I pre-ordered it as soon as it came out. I like the idea that it can really easily make a live podcast. I haven't done that yet, but especially if I'm going to be live in front of an audience, I think it's really easy. There's a Zoom one, L6, L12, whatever it is, and it has the pads too, so it's kind of like, I think it's a little cheaper, but this came out first. I got this, and then this is kind of like the cheaper version of the SM7B. I also pre-ordered this because I thought, oh, it's really heavy. It's made by Rode. It must be quality. But yeah, I really like it. I mean, they're constantly.
Look at that. There you go.
Okay, so Ray likes the SM7B over the pod mic. Is that right?
I do. So because Rode, you saw my Rodecaster Pro if you're watching the video, and I have one of these too. And I thought Rode was sending this out for review, as in I would give it back, and they said keep it. So I think that the price of shipping this, what is essentially a tank, the Rode Pod mic is a tank. It's the heaviest mic I've ever felt, and I talk into a SM7B. Sending this back to Australia would cost them more than just giving it to me, I think. So they gave it to me, but I love it. It's fantastic. I use it on live streams. I actually really like it. This is a little brighter than this mic when we get into the sort of nerdery around it. Nerdery, that's not a word. But I do like it a lot. I switch it up. I have choices because again we're nerds, and so this is my favorite. The SM7B has been my current favorite. So
Nice. Yeah, I really like the way this works with this, but I think it's mostly in my head because it has the setting. Like, what mic are you using? Condenser, dynamic, pod mic? Oh, it's got to be the best sound profile. But they're constantly updating it, which is nice. Multi-track is working now. At first, it wasn't, which was kind of strange. It's like, why would this not multi-track? But now it does. Yeah.
It does multi-track. Yeah, they just updated the firmware, didn't they? Or did they? When did that firmware update come out? Because
They've had a lot. Multi-track one was basically the first update, I think. But yeah, before then it was like,
okay,
how can I use this without multi-tracking? Just one channel. Yeah, but it's working great now.
you can. Yeah, it's you have to have a good mix, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole concept, right? They
Doug,
built this thing
what's
for
your mic?
people who aren't audio nerds, but the audio nerds are the ones who bought it. So we've asked for things, and the beauty of Rode is they've listened and they've given it to us. And so I would point out that the device is called a Rodecaster Pro. Okay, so now we have pro things.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tempting. I would love to get one of those. Doug, your mic, what are you using today?
Well, I am using a medium diaphragm condenser that I've had in the back of my closet for years and years because, and usually I use the Snowball USB mic, but because I'm doing all of these live Zoom things, I have to go into my. I've got a 8-channel Mackie mixer that, so I've got my uke and then my pedal board and bass uke and everything, so I can switch back really easily. But having all of that go in through the USB out of the mixer, like I can't have a USB mic on top of that. So yeah, I've changed it up a little bit, but like so much of what I do is kind of like what Abe was talking about lighting. Like you take what you have and you make all that work, and then after you've done it for a while, then you go, okay, well, I'm going to upgrade to a beer-soaked SM58, and then you go with that.
Oh, I love that beer-soaked SM58.
You know, the SM58. when you soak it in beer, it sounds better.
Everything sounds better when it's beer-soaked. I usually use a Heil PR40, but as Ray mentioned, I was having technical difficulty getting that to work with the live stream for whatever reason. So I switched it up. There you go. Exactly. Hey, hi. How'd you get? Oh, yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, the pop screen. Yeah. I should put it down there lower. Okay. I'm going to change the location of my pop screen now that I've seen how Ray does it, because, I got to be cool like Ray. No, I actually was like, well, do I want the pop screen further up or, close to the diaphragm? And I was going back and forth. The bad thing about making it further away is that you have to put it on the mesh. I was like, I know there's a little metal band, but I'm going to go and put it down lower.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's adjustable. I mean, it really has to do with your own voice, right? Like how strong are your own plosives, how close you need that to be. And then if you use a little mic technique, you can put it down. But the Heil is a front address microphone, so you don't have to worry about like covering up any of the polar pattern on those sides. And it's a tough mic, so you're fine out there on the mesh as well.
Yeah, it's a great mic for rejection. For those of you who are in a noisy environment, that's what's so important about the polar pattern is that some mics can reject a lot of noise. So even if you're in a fairly noisy environment, like right now, this mic here is probably not picking up too much of the fan noise on my MacBook. I mean, my MacBook is going nuts right now.
No, the ATR 2100 is,
probably
and
can't
then
hear too
Abe
much
was talking about how there's affordable mics. It's a $50. You can catch a sale. Wait for it. It's $60, $50, $70 in that range. USB XLR. So when you decide to upgrade to a mixer, if you ever needed to, it doesn't become a paperweight. And it is fantastic. I put it up in one of my episodes against the Heil PR40, and with a little post processing, you will not be able to tell which is which. It's a fantastic mic. The Q2U, if you're in Europe, is the equivalent, which I like even a little bit more. But yeah, they're
Wow.
super rejectors. Yeah, they're dynamic microphones. They sound great.
Yeah, and I think Ray, I think you're the reason why I have this one, by the way. I think I was
Philly
listening
Nick,
to
I
one of your
hope.
podcasts going, okay, I'm going to get that one because I needed a second. I was going to have a podcast guest in studio and I go, okay, I need another mic. And this one was the one that I came up with, or you came up with. And I said, sounds good. Wow. Okay. So favorite piece of gear, what would you say in your podcast studio? We already went over lighting, but so what's your favorite gear now? Piece of gear.
I think we're going to
Let's
land in the
see.
same spot.
Let's go with Ray.
I think Abe and I are going to land in the same spot on the Rodecaster Pro. And
Well, we didn't actually talk much about it. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
People, and I did show it on the stream. So again, if you are listening to this, you can go check out the YouTube stream in the archive. And it is like a professional mixing desk. It's a mixer, but it does everything. It's my favorite because it does everything in one box. So anytime I was doing something like what we're doing now and trying to record it, like I'm always changing my setup. The Rodecaster Pro made that like a non-issue because it does this thing called a mix minus where it lets you guys come into the stream, into my box, and then go back out without sending your own voice back. And you can connect telephones to it. So Abe was saying it's very easy to do remote interviews via telephone. You can plug it in via cable, which sounds best, or you can go in Bluetooth. So you have all these other channels of bringing other audio into it. And it's just, it's hard to find anything wrong with it. And there's always something wrong with a piece of gear, but it's fantastic. It's just made everything super simple. And it does feel at times like it could possibly be overkill if you're just one person. But even recording, I mean, the onboard effects, like things that you would buy outboard gear for, like a compressor or a gate, some EQ, stuff like that, is built in and it's good quality. So the preamps are good, the effects are good, the features are good. You record onto the device. We talk about redundant systems. We mentioned that before on this episode. You can record to the SD card and stream it at the same time to multi-channel in your computer. So it just does everything, and I love it. It's been the best piece of podcasting gear to come out in I would say the last couple years. Previously, the microphone that you're using, Stuart, the ATR 2100, was my favorite piece of podcasting gear to come out. And not until the Rodecaster Pro came out did that get eclipsed. And so for me, hands down, it's just been so much fun to use. And Rode didn't pay me to say that.
You sound like it.
I sound like a commercial, but it's that good. Unfortunately, I have someone to back me up. I think Abe probably likes his too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's my favorite piece of gear. If I had to pick a different piece of gear, it would probably be my Zoom H6 I use to record remotely. And then I actually use a super cardioid instrument microphone to record people's voices. Because I don't actually record a lot of playing in general. I usually record people, but somehow I like that sound better, an instrument mic on a voice, which is kind of weird. But yeah, if I had to, I would still pick the Rodecaster Pro. I just wanted to throw something else in there in case we needed more variety for the audience.
Well, I mean, for field work, you need something like that, like the Zoom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, with the Rodecaster, it's nice that you don't actually need a computer to record a whole podcast.
100%.
You can just do it all. I almost never do it, but I like the idea that I could just hit the intro, start, and read off my script and hit other bumpers, to go along. But yeah, the H6 and those other ones, the portable recorders, you can use this with it, whatever. Um, that's how I make most of my podcasts, because I'm usually on scene recording with a person, and then I bring it back and edit on my computer. And then if I'm at home, I use the Rodecaster Pro. I haven't been able to use this live yet. I was planning to use it at the Allegheny Ukulele Soiree, but that got canceled, unfortunately. So I have to, really put it to the test as soon as possible in a live situation. That's something I'm looking forward to.
Very cool.
Recording in a
I'd love
room.
to hear how that turns out.
Huh? What was that?
Yeah. No, I said that I'd love to hear how that comes out once we get some semblance of normality back.
Yeah.
I hate to point out one more
All right,
piece of
Mr.
gear.
Doug.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Ray.
It's in case my daughter watches back. It's ironic or coincidental that I'm on this podcast because we built this last night.
Nice.
Woo!
This is my 8-year-old. So my wife, way before you invited me, Stuart, my wife ordered this as a quarantine project for my daughter. She started part of being a homeschool teacher. We had music class, and I was teaching her on my micro bass. And so my wife thought this would be a fun project, and we just built this last night. So it's the thing I want to learn, so I can join all of you on the strum along. So I want to do a strum along. That sounds amazing. This is probably not a great instrument to do it on. I can't even tune it properly.
It'll work fine as long as it stays in tune.
That's it.
Yeah, as long as get one that stays in tune. But that's a very cool project. A beautiful thing to memorialize, take pictures of. But yeah, $50 will get you a really good ukulele nowadays. So just Kala is fine. Pono. There's so many of them out there, but Lanikai. Anyway, yeah. But that's perfect for homeschooling too. See, ukulele in the classroom, episode 87. All right, back to you, Doug.
Well, of course, there's a link to the Rodecaster Pro in the show notes, but I think probably the biggest thing for me would be my solid body ukulele that I have going through my pedal board and into the desk, and usually I'm so lazy that the idea of taking all the stuff out to play with people with my electrified ukulele, dragging that stuff along just doesn't make any sense. But now I can do that all the time, and I can play a country. I've got a Digitech RP350, and it's got tons and tons of preloaded effects on it, and so I can sound like a country guy or a metal guy or a funky it's got a wah pedal setting on it, and so yeah, that's been my favorite thing.
These all-in-one effects pedals are pretty cool. I got to admit that. I have an old Zoom G3, and it is when I put it. I've played places where you can do distortion, you can do clean, you can do whatever you want. There's a really cool thing called 7 mirrors or something like that, where it sounds kind of like a backward. It'll do everything where it swells and then decays. It sounds very cool, almost like a steel guitar. Yeah. So yep, definitely look into pedals too for your ukulele if you get into that. Awesome. All right, we're gonna wrap up the show now. And the last thing I want to do is, just from your own perspective, what do you think are the important things to help you get through this really difficult time? I mean, both for our psyche, our financial health, and our overall physical health. So I will start off, and I'll say that from my perspective, I think what we need here, and has really helped me out, is friends, something what I call soft focus, and the last thing is stories. So friends, I mean, that's I love that there's this ukulele community and my community in general and it's great to have this technology, but without the people behind it, that's what makes it helpful. So support of the friends and being able to support and connect and reconnect with friends. And then the soft focus part is I was reading something about, don't get tunnel vision. So that's kind of what I'm talking about is that, we tend to get too focused in on these negative things. And I know I gotta stop watching news too much or YouTube too much, because I will get one focused on one thing and it's like video after video, and it doesn't help sometimes. But so soft focus is the ability to keep scanning your environment, right? You don't focus on just one thing. You see some things, yes, have some focus there, but then be able to go to the next thing and the next thing. Um, and then finally, the stories for me are really important. They could be um, myths and metaphors or allegories and about life lessons. So, uh, and I know this is kind of a little bit of an editorial here. So I'm taking that liberty because it's the third half of the show. So hopefully some people are still logged in here. But uh, I know that watching a good movie really helps me out sometimes. And the one that really resonates with me, if you're a geeky fan of the Marvel MCU, is Endgame. So Doug, can again, amen. Have you're an Endgame guy, right?
Oh, well, I'm a Doctor Strange guy, but yes,
Okay.
I'm a big Marvel guy.
All right.
I check all the boxes on Harry Potter and Star Wars and Marvel, like all of column A, B, and C.
Well, I just when I rewatched Endgame, I thought, oh my gosh, this is where we're at, right? Um, by the way, spoilers. And by the way, if you guys have not seen Endgame by now with the Avengers, I don't think you're interested in seeing it anyway. So, but spoilers. I mean, when everyone, uh, it's about death and redemption and transformation. But I mean, it's like they're in this hopeless situation, and it kind of feels that way sometimes right now. All right, so watch that movie. There's a lot of content in there. All right, so I'll let you guys. I'll pass the baton around. Ray, what are your thoughts on getting through this?
You mentioned, you sort of hit on having got music. Okay. Doug's hooking us up with some theme song as we roll out. Just 10 years ago, if this happens, we wouldn't have been able to even do what we're doing, right? Being so connected. We're distancing,
Right.
but alone. So it's fantastic. Like if you haven't tried, even do like a trivia night with your friends, or you don't have to do anything. People are within reach. I mean, we've had to do it with my daughter and her friends, and like it's just amazing that we are stuck inside, but we are in a time that we have the tech that's able to connect. But also in regards to connecting, like taking time out for yourself, like we're crammed together in a small space with people we love, but it's family. Like it doesn't always go well. And so, I think that exercise is important because you mentioned physical. So two birds, one stone, like get out, take a walk by yourself, and just enjoy some you time. I think that's really important. Or playing your instrument. I think for me has become, as I mentioned, over the last year, has become a very like almost meditative experience. And so taking time out to yourself to do a thing. And I would say guilty pleasures, like find one, embrace it. But I don't even know that we should call it guilty pleasure. Like it's just something you enjoy doing. It could be a hobby. I mean, Westworld is back, so I got way into that. There's a great podcast called The Recapables that is required if you're going to do that. So if you want to escape, although it's pretty deep and dark, if you want to escape, I'm really enjoying that. But you can find any program that you enjoy, and then again, see if it has a companion podcast. That's been a really fun way. A lot of shows have companion podcasts, so that can be a really great combination to sort of to fill in some of that mental therapy time that you might need, that we all need. So, but yes, exercise as much as you can. I mean, I I do push-ups in my office, or jumping jacks, a jump rope, play with my daughter, whatever it is. Stay active, because I definitely
Nice.
sit in this chair too much.
Hmm.
And for
God,
finance,
I hear you.
important
I'm
too.
going to come out of this with extra, extra weight on me.
Yeah, we all are. I mean, you're gonna have your Corona pounds, or whatever they're gonna call them. I don't know, but
Yeah,
motivation to
there
go
you
out
go.
and jog later on, when we can all gather.
Mm.
But you said there, Doug, you mentioned the Roadcaster Pro link is going to be in the show notes. I hope for you guys that's an affiliate link. Look into affiliate programs if you are a creative doing things. A lot of people feel like it can be spammy, but look, your audience trusts you. It's not about it's about you, right? And if they don't trust you, and obviously you don't pitch stuff. I get sales pitches to pitch gear that's just bad all the time. I don't even answer those emails, because they're just clearly just spamming me. Um, but if it's a piece of, especially with Uke, I mean, there's plenty of gear. There could be books, movies, anything you're recommending. Amazon has a great affiliate program, and it can't get into all programs, but there's probably some affiliate, some store or retailer. If you're sharing links, if you're providing value for stuff that you trust and recommend, put a link on it. And then again, live streaming, the super chat can be a great way to supplement any kind of creative income that you're trying to make while you're stuck inside, right? Or record something, make videos, you do the Patreon. Like, it is really a totality
super
of
chat.
all the things you do.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up affiliate links, because I used to do them, and then I can't remember why, but Amazon, for my situation, killed the affiliate link. It didn't work, and then I think it is going to work again. I have to check into that. So good stuff. Abe, what do you think? What are your thoughts here?
It's all good advice. I love the quote that is often attributed to Mr. Rogers, which is when bad things are happening, look for the helpers. So, in terms of like getting through this tough time, just look for the good things that are happening. Like I have an album, and it's been out for 2 years, and then recently I found out it was number 5 best-selling folk album on Bandcamp. So that's awesome. I don't really promote it much, or I'm trying to write songs, but it's not coming. But look for the good things that you have. I'm sure you have something good going on in your life. If you like comic books, there's 2 great podcasts by Marvels called Marvels and Marvel's Wolverine. Those are really awesome. Find something that you like and just focus on yourself. Take care of yourself. In terms of like the news, I do listen to the news, and sometimes I get really upset at certain things. But it's best to just focus on what I can control. What can I do? I can, turn off my computer. I can get up. I sit a lot too these days, whether it's in front of my computer or somewhere else. Just get outside if you can. If you can't, get up and do something. But I'd say the most important thing is look for good things that are happening, because there are a lot of good things that are still happening, and just do what you can. Don't forget about yourself, especially. We'll get out of it eventually. Even like we're talking about like the fall. What will school look like in the fall? And it's kind of like nobody really knows, right? Some people are saying like we can't go over 12 kids in a classroom, and it's like I don't know if that's realistic. I'm lucky to have that for a lot of my classes, but it's not realistic for a lot of people. So just focus on what you can control, not what you can't. You can put a mask on. You can't really stop the other people from coughing everywhere they go on everything. If something awful is happening, that's what I would say. And listen to podcasts.
Yeah. Oh, well, great. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Doug.
Well,
What are your thoughts?
I think one of the big ones is downloading "I Will Be What I Will Be." And there's a link to that album in the show notes. But
There will be a link in the show notes.
exactly. And in addition, the Arpeggio Meditations for Ukulele by Daniel Ward. Talking about meditating and getting out and certainly doing things. Kai, my wife, has been been really good about getting out because she's so confined. She's been good about getting out and walking the dog, and because I'm so desperate to spend time with her, I've been going out and walking with her, and it's been fantastic. I always feel better when I'm exercising. But talking about the
That's awesome.
the Mr. Rogers quote. So Kai was telling me the other day, oh, well, I haven't really, we've got our budget, we give ourselves an allowance every week. And she said, well, I haven't been spending my allowance, so I'm donating it to a local food bank. I'm like, you are so good, because I'm looking at all this gear that I can buy and have shipped it sometime in the future to myself. But yeah, I mean, just be good to everybody. That's the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. And it was nice to talk to Kai the other day. Actually, I don't know if I've ever met her, even though we're so close.
Well,
in terms of,
you did. The right before, and this is certainly exciting podcasting here. Right before the Jake Shimabukuro concert at the Denver Ute Fest, probably 10 years ago, you guys met for about 4 seconds, and it was awesome. So,
all right. I vaguely remember. Okay, but your daughter was there too, right?
yep, the whole crew was there. That's how I know that you met them.
Very cool. Yeah. All right. I do remember that. Very cool. All right. Well, it'll be good. Maybe sometime to have a more in-depth chat.
I
but
just want to.
this is all over. Go ahead.
I remembered. I mean, I don't know how I forget this, but my wife has started doing yoga every single day. So just an example of like, look what you can do. There are so many free resources that are out there to help you help yourself. So she started doing yoga every day using free YouTube videos for whatever mood she's in. I'm about to go to bed yoga. I'm waking up, morning yoga, and she has, reflected to me that she feels so much better. And she keeps calling me, and I know I should probably join her. I've never done yoga before. But, yeah, in terms of like help yourself.
It's really good with raspberries. You want to get
eh,
the Greek yoga though, because it's better that way.
It's thicker. Yeah, I know. But seriously, on the yoga part too, I would recommend. I practice when I can, and I need to do as often as I can. Is meditation, which is just setting aside some time to be quiet with yourself, and it's not this. It's not this thing where you have to perfect it and have no thoughts, and you're in completely. No, I mean seriously, you set aside some time. There's tons of apps and tons of sites that talk about how to meditate, but it's a good practice too.
Yeah, I force the kids to meditate for at least a half an hour a day. So you must meditate and be quiet.
One of my friends called it. Like you don't have to think of meditation as too woo wooey. It's just letting yourself sit for a minute and just recharge and just be. It's okay to do nothing for a minute.
Absolutely, it's okay. Exactly, it's okay to be still. It's okay to do nothing for a little while. We don't have to always be in motion, and that's always good. All right, guys, thank you so much for doing this special podcast with me. Those of you out there, if you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/OokTown. Give us a couple bucks, or go to OokTown.com/donate. But I do have to look into those other things that you guys mentioned. So good to get that feedback. And before we end the podcast, as we always do, count to 3. And
do we have anything that anybody would like to talk about? Projects that you're working on, or things that you?
I'm sorry.
That's why I'm here.
Yes. Go ahead. All right, Ray. What are you working on? What are things that you want people to know about you?
I would just say, I mean, you just go to rayortega.com. I have my name spelled out here in the video, but rayortega.com, everything funnels, all the podcasts, the YouTube, because I'm working on videos for, if you're interested in doing better audio production, like there's stuff there for that. So just check that out. And I'll also just end by saying donation is a great way to go. Donate to your favorite cause. It'll make you feel a lot better in times that are dark. That is a large umbrella. Donate to your favorite cause if you have the ability, and I'm talking like even a couple dollars. Donate to OokTown, right? Donate to your favorite creators. It really helps. You think people think other people are doing it, or a dollar doesn't matter. It all matters. So I would say donate to your favorite creators and causes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Abe, what's
Uh,
happening with you?
what's happening with me? Well, I like coffee, so if you want to buy me a coffee, that's cool. Oh, nice. Got your cup right there. Awesome. Just the podcast, ookpodcast.com. I make music, ukuleleabe.com. I already plugged that. It was a shameless plug, but thank you for including it. On May 1st, actually, Bandcamp is waiving their fees. So if you want to support musicians, me or anyone else, I recommend going to Bandcamp and just buying albums. A lot of them are cheap. A lot of them are, really out there. A lot of them are just music you would love. And sometimes they say pay what you can, and you can get it.
Yeah, you can get a,
Broke up for a second. Where did you lose me?
and you can get a
Hey, what you want?
album. that,
Oh, I was talking about Bandcamp. May 1st, fees are being waived. So if you want to support musicians, just go there on that day and buy an album. Sometimes you can get one for $1, sometimes 10. Yeah, I found a lot of people are really, what's the word, generous in terms of donations. And like Ray said, it is really helpful. Even $2 for my album I got the other day is like so nice. It's really motivating, especially as a creator, to just keep making. So if you like something, find who made it and give them $1 or more. Give them your whole stimulus check if you want. I'm not going to say no to that, but yeah. I'm working on a lot of things all the time.
Nice.
I don't know how to end my spiel. I'm sorry.
That's good enough. Those are good things to do, and I love Bandcamp because Bandcamp is much more direct contribution to the artist, even more so than iTunes or anything anywhere else. So that's good stuff. And finally, Mr. Doug, what do you have?
Just the din-uke.com. We're doing our same monthly get-togethers, and they have been really, really fun. So if you're learning how to play, a lot of times one of the barriers to entry is feeling like, oh, I don't want to go and sit where somebody next to me can hear how bad I'm playing. Hey, number one, nobody's paying attention to you, so you should come on down anyway. But number two, here's a chance to play with the wonderful Doug Brown, and it's kind of like just you and me playing together. So come on down. It'll be great.
Yeah, it will. Meetings, I love that. It's just that feeling of community when you can see everybody strumming along, even if you can't hear them, you can just hear the whoever's leading it. It's awesome. And are you gonna? Did you include the Ukulele Wednesdays link too? I would love to join them sometime too.
Yep, that's on there.
Thank you for reminding me of my duty as a host. It is one of my best things. I love making sure that people know and can see the things that you guys are doing. All right, so now, if everyone's ready, we will, on the count of 3, we'll all say aloha, because that's how we love to end the podcast. Are you guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
Aloha. Yay!
You
Yeah.
smash it when you're done,
All
right?
right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Now we can play around.
Ray and Abe, hey,
So,
it was
Ray,
great
were you,
talking to
on
you,
the-
and I've got to actually jet, but man,
you.
fantastic.